Hey, hi all. Welcome back to the channel again. Today we are going to discuss about routing in Angular. So how routing works and what your configurations needs to have in order to implement the routing. And then we will look into the types of routes available, then how to pass parameters to the routes, then how to read parameters. Parameters are actually there are two types of parameters. The first one is normal parameters and the second one is query parameters. Then we will learn how to navigate, you know, between components programmatically. Then we will learn how to make, users to see whatever routes are available in the application. Then we will look into how to make a particular route active, right? So for these all, we need actually a router module and route array, right? So the route is nothing but an interface we have, and as we will be having multiple routes, then we'll have a routes array as well. So basically, first of all, we will look into the overview first, right? So why do we need routes in any applications, right? So now routes are actually nothing but menus, we can say. And in Angular, if you consider the Angular as a framework, it actually gives us uh, an interface called route, and we can actually create routes based out of that particular interface only. And if you compare Angular with any other server-side applications like .NET or Java, whenever you try to visit any menu or any page, it actually makes a network call. After that, if the network call is successful, then only it actually loads our page. But if you look at the Angular, it actually does it for us at the client side only. And here actually to visit a particular component or a page or a menu, we don't need to make any API calls or a network request. Okay. But then once the component is hooked up in the DOM, then in the lifecycle hook ng on init, we may use our services to call API data, right? Call APIs or to get the API data to show it on the UI. Okay, but then in to access a particular page with HTML, we don't need to make any kind of network request. So this is actually a kind of overview of what router is and how we why do we need a router. So let's understand how we can define routes. First of all, normal route, then we will define a wildcard route and then route redirects as well. So let's look at these four things: the normal one, wildcard one, redirect one, and nested one. So for that, if you look at this page, right, so it actually has a route. The router outlet is available on the root component, and this is the route I have added. So for this route, I have attached or linked this chapter component. So that's the reason it is rendering over here. So let's look at how it is working. Let's understand the configuration first. What all things we need to implement routes in the application. So let's understand that if you create an application using latest Angular version, you will get this file app.root.ts, and inside app.root.ts you will have to write down the routes like this. Uh, like the first parameter is path and the second is the second key is nothing but a chapter or a component, we can say. And then if you are targeting a particular component to display over there, you need to import that component and you need to assign the instance of this of that component to this component key of a routes actually array, right? So the routes array is actually nothing but an array of route. As you can see over here, this is the interface, and it actually has done like type aliases to call this route array as routes, right? So instead of calling this or giving type as a route array, we are giving it as a routes over here. As you can see, instead of this, we can give route array also over here as a type. Okay, so instead of doing this, they have given it as a alias, the typed alias. If you are new to typed alias, I would recommend you guys to go and watch my TypeScript video. There I have uh, given examples of those as well. Now once you have added your routes, you need to register these routes. So to register routes, you need to go to the app.config.ts, and here in the providers array you need to provide those routes. And this code is actually created for us as soon as you create an Angular application using the latest version, right? So this is the boilerplate code. This is available for us. So as you can see here, they have imported the routes from the app.routes, and then they have passed those routes into the provide router function, and then the provide router function as well, they have passed to the providers array of this application config, right? So this is how you need to do. And one more last thing, where you wish to render all your routes, that is nothing but a root component which has app.root as a selector. So on HTML of this particular component, you need to add the router outlet. As you can see over here, we do have a router outlet, and to make this router outlet work, you need to import the router outlet module or a class, right? So these many changes you need to do to configure routes or to make routes work in Angular application. Now let's understand the different types of routes. If you look at over here, this is the normal route. So this is, if you are not giving anything, then by default this particular component will get rendered. And if you are giving something like some key, the matching key, then it will look for that particular key in the path of the browser, and then it matches that with the URLs array we have, right? So let's give it a path, call it like home, and then component. To this we need to create a component called home component. So let's say ng generate c home component, and over here we need to call the home component, right? So this is how we have created a home component. Now let's see /home. As you can see, home component works, has been rendered, like whatever view it has been rendered over here. And then below router outlet, you can see the app home component, which is rendered over here, and this is nothing but a root component itself, right? So this is how you can add whatever routes you want, and based on that route, the Angular router matches it with available routes, and if it matches with it particular route, and then it will render the component which is connected to that route. Now let's understand the wildcard routes. Now let's say I have typed in something a messy, non-understandable string in the browser URL or the browser search bar. Then that particular string is not available as a part of routes. Then we wish to navigate that user to a not found component. Then in that case, we can have this wildcard route where we do need to insert 2 stars in the path, and then component We have a not found component. Let's import that component. So as you can see, the not found component is available, and it has nothing but the paragraph tag, nothing else. Okay, so let's save this and look at the screen now. Slash, I'll just put some random string over here. So if I click or hit enter, after that it actually renders our not found component, because it doesn't find that particular route available in the routes array. So this is how it finds out the or the matches the routes and renders components accordingly. Now let's understand how we can uh, redirect on a particular path. So once the Angular router finds that path, we need to redirect it to any other component or any other path. So let's understand that. Let me add a path called chapter, let's say, and then redirect to we do have a path with empty, right, over here. Now let's save. If I instead of this random string, if I put chapter over here, so let's say what it does. As you can see, it navigated or redirect to the chapter component with the path empty, right? So even if I have typed in the path, it actually redirecting me towards the chapter component's empty path, right? So this is how the route redirects works. Now let's understand the nested routes. So for nested routes, let's understand or let's add a component called, let's say, products component, and we'll have a child routes for configured for this particular product component. So now let's add that component ng generate products component. uh, okay, so we need to give C over here to generate a component. Now we do have a products component. Let's add that component over here, and to this we do have a children's. This is a children key which actually takes an array, and the type of array it takes actually nothing but a routes. Okay, so again we need to give the path over here. Let's say t-shirt, right? And let's add a component called t-shirt. um, okay, so let me clear the console and then ng generate the t-shirt component, right? So now let me add that t-shirt component over here. So as you can see, we do have a products component, and then we have a t-shirt component under it, which is nothing but a particular it is nothing but a child root of this products component. Okay, so this is called the nested routing in the Angular. So now if I visit slash products, you can see the products component works, but then if I visit products slash t-shirt, you cannot see the t-shirt component getting rendered inside this product component, right? So for that you need to do one thing. You need to go inside the products component or the parent component, and over here you need to import the router outlet class. Okay, once you imported the router outlet class, you need to go to the template of that particular products component, and over here you need to call the router outlet tag. That's it. And once you refresh it, you can see the t-shirt component is now getting rendered over here, right? So the same thing what we have done for this parents component, like sorry, the parent routes, we have the parent routes will gets rendered on the the root elements HTML or the root components HTML, right? Similarly, if you have a child roots, then this products component will become a parent component, and to render this child roots, you need to actually add that router outlet in the products components HTML or the parents components HTML, right? So this is how you are actually rendering the child roots. And now regarding this wildcard root, there is one more thing actually I missed. That is nothing but you need to put this particular wildcard root at last only. If you put this particular root in the starting, none of your roots will get will actually works. So why? Because even if you type empty, even if you type home, even if you type products or products slash t-shirts or chapter, it will treat as a wildcard root only, and it will every time it will redirect to the not found component itself, right? So how the routing matching work actually? Routes matching works from top to bottom. Okay, so it will look for the path one by one through looping this routes array, and then if it finds a children for particular route, it again loops through those children, it finds that particular path, and then it matches it, and accordingly it renders it. Okay, to access a particular children of that particular parent, you need to give the full path, right? So as you can see, products slash t-shirt we have given over here. So inside products, we need to access the t-shirt, then products slash t-shirt, like this full route we need to give to access this t-shirt component. Now let's understand, let's go back to the chapter component. After the nested routes, we do have a route with data and reading, right? So we can pass data as well while defining the route, right? So how? So let's say in the home component, we need to pass data, right? So there is another key called data, which is available inside this, particular route interface, right? So if I search for the data, you can see there is a data key available, and the type of is nothing but this data, which is actually, and again, this is actually, a user defined type we are creating, okay? Or it has been created for us, and the type is nothing but it will have a key of type string, and then it will have a value of type any, right? And to access this data, we need to access it like index based. How that we will going to see in a bit. Now first of all, we'll give a data, and as you all seen just now, it actually expect an object and then key of type string, right? So let's say id of type string, then colon, let's give a value called 1235, let's say, right? And now how we can read this, right? So to read this, we need to go to the home component, and over here we need to import Angular router. Okay, first we need to import the Angular router, then we need to inject it. So let's create a variable called not router, activated route, I think. Instead of router, let's import the activated route, add it to the imports array, then create a variable of it, underscore activated route is equals to inject, use the inject method, and then pass this activated route over here. You don't need to give it into the imports array actually. It's not a module. So now, as you can see, this particular activated route has been injected to this home component, and now if you look at the activated route, it has the data property, right? It has the data property of type observable of this data. So this data we have seen just now, right? So this same type is available inside the router module, right? So to access the data, we need to subscribe this. So how we can subscribe it? We need to implement the on init interface. Okay, so once you have implemented the on init, interface, you need to implement the ng on init method as well. And now inside this method, let's read it. So this dot underscore activated route dot data dot subscribe, because it is a type of observable, we need to read it using the subscribe method itself, right? Console.log response of, right, index based only. So we are accessing it using index based. So this is how you need to access it. Now let me save this and go back to the browser, open the console window so that you guys can see the console. I'll navigate to the home component now. So as you can see, 1 2 3 4 5 has been read out over here. It is visible and it has been printed using this console log statement, and we are successfully reading the data from that particular route. So activated route over here represents this particular route. Okay, it has many more properties, like to if you want to um, make particular route or link active, then in that case you can use this activated route as well. And it has many more properties, like if you can see, it has a URL, segments, fragments, it has parent, it has first child, children's. If you want to loop through the children's, like child roots of that particular component or the particular root, you can make use of the children property. Then you will have a path from root. So these all are actually get properties only, and using these get properties you can read whatever parameters or the things that particular root contains. So this is how you can actually read the data out of a particular activated route or a route, right? So now let's understand how we can how we can pass parameters and how we can access those parameters. So let's say we do have a products component, let's say, right? So now pass some parameters to this product component. So how we can pass some parameters? So to this path you need to give slash and then colon the parameter name itself. Okay, so whatever parameter name you want to pass. So let's say we want to pass id, then slash, again let's say name. So these two parameters are there. You can pass as many parameters as you want. Let's understand how we can pass multiple parameters by passing two parameters to this product component. Now we need to go to the products component over here. Again we need to do the same thing, inject the activated route over here, inject activated route. And by the way, you need to import these two activated route from the Angular router and inject from the Angular core. So inject is actually a method which actually whatever dependencies we want to inject, it helps us to inject those dependencies to the component. Now again, how we have done in the home component, we need to implement the onInit interface. Again, onInit will be imported from the Angular core itself, as you can see over here. Now we need to implement the onInit method, implement it, and inside onInit method, let's use the activated route. So this dot activated route dot. Now we do have a parameters. So let's use params. Now as you can see, as soon as I type para, you can see there are four actually properties this activated route has: the param map and params. Then we have a query param map and query params. So query we will look into in some time after this params, once the params reading completes. But then if you look at the params, there are two variants of reading params. The first one is params and the second one is params map. Let's look at the first one, params.subscribe. So we will get some result over here, and to read both parameters we need to use the key based, right? So response of id, and after that response of name. So this is as similar as data. So if you look at these parameters, it has the type as params, and then the param is has this kind of definition inside it for the key and value, right? So the same type of definition available for the data as well in the router. um, Let me see. It has the params, and if you look at the data, for data as well we have a data, and this type is also has the same thing, key of type string, and the value could be anything. So it has the same signature, so that's the reason we are reading it same way as we have read it into the home component, right? So let's save everything. We are reading it like this. Let's pass something to the products component. Let's say products, then we have a ID, right? So let's say 1 2 3 as an ID, and name, let's say test. I'm hitting enter, and as you can see over here, the product components also works, and then we have logging the parameter ID and the parameter name over here, right? So this is how using params you can read the parameters dynamically, because this is a dynamic route. Now let's understand how we can do with the params map. Let's use the same thing, activated route dot params map dot. This is also a type of subscriber only, observable only, and we are getting, we if we want to read some values from the observable, we need to subscribe it. Now let's use response dot get method ID, and then response dot get method name, right? So here we need to log it using the get method only, console.log. So why I'm using the get method over here? Because the type of this param map observable is nothing but this is the type of observable, and the type is nothing but a param map. So as you can see, param map is an interface, it's not a type, it's an interface type, and then it has method, get method, and get all methods. So using get method, we are actually getting the values of that particular parameters, and in the in the parentheses we need to pass the string key of the parameter name as we have passed over here, ID and name. So let me save everything, visit the same URL. So as you can see, 1 2 3 and test has been printed over here. Now this time this is getting printed from the params map, as you can see over here, because this code we have commented out, right? So response.get ID, and over here index based we are accessing response of ID, like this. Inside home component also we are accessing like response of ID. So we are accessing data in the home component, but in the products component we are accessing the parameters. So over here we have subscribed to the data observable, and over here we are subscribing to the params observable and params map observable. Just because these observables has different types of result, that's the reason we are accessing data based on the type of observable. Okay, so this is how it is. Now let's understand how we can pass the query parameters. To pass query parameters, we'll make use of the t-shirt component. Let's say now in the app.roots I have a t-shirt component over here, and it has this path. Now to this products component I am passing ID and name, but this t-shirt component I want to pass the query string. So how I can pass it? I'll give this question mark over here to start a query string, and then a key name, right? So what could be the key name? Let's say size is equals to m size, right? So size is equals to m, and let's understand how we can read these query parameters. Now again we need to go to the t-shirts component. Over here we need to do the same thing, underscore activated route is equals to inject activated route. Same dependency we need to inject to this particular component as well. Now again implements onInit interface, and from onInit interface we need to implement that particular interface method ng onInit over here. Now let's use the query param and query param map as I showed you few minutes before. Let's use query params first. Query params, this is also a type of observable. We need to subscribe it. Response goes to response of what was the key. Let's copy that key, size, right? So response of size. So this is how we can read query parameters from the path as well. So now let's give the full path slash products. Let's use slash products slash id could be 1, then the name could be test, and then t-shirt, the question mark, then we do have a size is equals to m, right? So let's hit enter to this URL. So I have hit actually enter to this URL, but it says not found component. So why is it happening actually, right? Whenever you add a query parameter, right, so you don't actually add the values of it actually, right? So if you do like this, size equals to, right, and then you can actually find it out in the URL segment, and then you can get a key out of the URL by identifying this question mark and then splitting the keys with the equals to sign, and you can assign the values to that particular key over here dynamically, because query strings works dynamically only. They are not part of a static routes, right? So if you want to pass, you can pass. If you cannot, then let's say how we can pass it. So this is M. As you can see, this is not working because this is not a valid route, because the valid routes are not actually, they are not contains the query string, right? So we can remove this because we do have a code written to read the query string. Let's pass query string dynamically, because query strings are actually a part of dynamic string only. So as you can see, we don't have this query string available in the path, but we are passing query string dynamically, and it is getting read by the t-shirt component over here. As you can see, M, it is getting printed from the t-shirt component, right? So this is how query string works. To make query string work, we need to read query string from the query params. Now let's understand how we can read it from the query params map. So this is exactly same how we are reading the params and param maps. Again, we need to subscribe it. Response we are getting, right? Let's console.log response.get. Again, we need to use the get method over here, and then the string, that is nothing but the size, right? So this is how it again prints out the, let's say, products yeah, like this. We can hit the same URL again, right? So as you can see, t-shirt size is getting printed, but now it is getting printed from the query param map instead of query params, right? So this is how actually the reading part is actually same, how we actually reading it from the params and params map. So in the t-shirt as well, query params and query params map, we can make use of these two things again to read the query strings. The order actually doesn't matter. So if you are reading name first and ID after the name, that is also fine, because both things are a part of URLs only, right? In the chapter, in the home component, as you can see, the data in the products component, params and param map, and in the t-shirt component, queries map and query param map. Okay, query params and query param maps. So these are all actually 4-5 things are a type of observables only, and we need to subscribe them to read. Okay, and again, the way of reading is different for the params and params map. Keep in mind, in case of params and params map, in case of query params and query param maps. And to read data, it is straightforward. You will have only one variant of it, reading the data using key, and that is also index based. Okay, so this is how you will have to pass the query params. Now let's go to the chapter component. Let's see whatever is left. Let's understand the programmatic navigation now. To understand a programmatic navigation, we need to learn about the router module. Okay, so now as you can see, these two buttons we are having in the chapter component. Let's add some events to those buttons. Now I am on a HTML or a view of a chapter component. Let's add a click event handler to this. Click navigate. Okay, and then the same thing, click navigate by URL. Okay, so let's add these two methods in the chapter component, navigate and then navigate by URL, right? So we have added these two methods. Now how we can navigate programmatically to visit different components? Again, we need to make use of the route itself. Okay, so suppose I want to visit the products component from the chapter components. How I can visit? I can make use of a router. So let's import router and add it to the imports array, right? So you need to import the router from the angular/router only, and then not inside the imports array, but you need to inject it. So let's create a variable called router is equals to inject router. So whatever we have imported right now. So make use of this router thing, this dot underscore router dot navigate. So we do have a navigate method over here. It actually takes some commands inside actually a read only any type of array. So we need to pass this array. The first parameter is nothing but the path. The second parameter is the parameters. So whatever parameters that particular path or route has. So let's say we have we need to actually visit the products component. Let's copy this products component key over here, right? /products, then comma. We do have a parameter called ID, the value of it, let's say 1 2 3 4. Then again we have a parameter called name. The ID, the value of that name is nothing but test. Let's copy this and navigate programmatically now. So once I click on this, as you can see, products ID. Okay, wait, products, then the value of first parameter, and then the value of second parameter. Copy this, click on this button. As you can see, products component works, right? So this is how programmatically you can navigate to the components using the router module. Okay, so this is the router module, or you can say class as well. It actually gives us navigate method, and it has the navigate method has the first parameter as an read only any array, right? Keep in mind the first index will have the path, the second index. From second index onwards, you can have the values of particular parameters, the root parameters, right? So here we have a root parameter id value, and here we have a root parameter name value available, right? So this is how you can make use of a navigate method. The same thing we will do using the navigate by URL now. Navigate by URL, it has this method as well, and it doesn't contains the square bracket thing. It actually expects the plain URL, right? So let's construct the plain URL now. We do have a products. Let's add that products slash. For ID we need to pass 123, then slash. For name again we need to pass some name called test. Now save this. Again I'm clicking on this button, navigate by URL. As you can see, it is pointing out to the same products component, right? Just the difference is I have now clicked on this button, navigate. Okay, let's add this actually navigate by URL over here, because we are making use of a parameters only, not query strings. And I'll just comment it out the first way, the navigate, and we'll keep the navigate by URL over here. Now let me save this. Again I'm clicking on navigate with params. As you can see, the same products component works came, right? So the same thing we are doing, but the navigate by URL, but using the navigate by URL over here. Now we'll do the same thing now, but the thing is now we'll pass the query parameters. Okay, so now comma over here, it actually navigate method expects the extras as a navigation extras in the second parameter, and to this navigation extras it has the object. Okay, as you can see, it has the object, and it expects the query string as well. URL creation options. As you can see, you are inside the URL creation options. We can pass the query parameters. We can pass relative to, right, relative URL as well. We can pass the fragment, um, preserved fragment, and query params handling, right? So query params handling, there are actually 2 to 3 options it has: merge, preserve, and replace, and empty. Okay, so we'll learn more about this in coming videos, but for now just keep in mind it actually merges the new parameters with the current parameters, the first option. The second option actually preserves the current parameters. The third option, replace, actually replaces the old parameters with the new parameters. Okay, suppose we do have a parameter called size, and we want to pass the new parameter instead of size. We can add this option replace over there. And then empty, this is nothing but as same as replace only. It actually replaces the old parameters with the new parameters. Okay, so these actually 4 types we have. We can give these while giving the query params handling option. But in our case, these are the simple options or the parameters we are passing as a query params. We can directly make use of this query params only. And as you can see, the type of this query params is nothing but a key of type string, and value could be anything, right? As same as the data. Now I have given the comma, and this is nothing but an object, and over here we can make use of a query params key, and it holds the object again. Now as a type of this query param is params, we need to give the key and value as like this actually. So let's give the key of type size, and the value could be anything. Let's give the string as a value. Now what we are actually doing, we are navigating to the products component now, products slash t-shirt, right? Because t-shirt is actually uh, taking the query parameter as a size. Let's give t-shirt to the last, right? Save everything. If I visit this query params, navigate with query params button, as you can see, we are visiting the t-shirt component now with size M. Okay, and t-shirt component is also getting loaded. You need to understand the sequence of path while using the navigate method. Okay, so as you can see, the first URL fragment or the URL section is nothing but the main or the parent component URL or the path. As you can see over here, we have added, then followed by two parameters. So we have given these two parameters followed by that path, and after that the child component's path. Okay, so whatever child component we need to visit, we need to give that path to this parameter, or as an element to this array. Now if this t-shirt is also having some path or the parameter, let's say it has color as a parameter, so let's save this. Again, inside a chapter.component.ts, we need to give comma. For color, again we need to pass the value as red. Okay, so as you can see, now it won't work actually. Navigate with query, right? T-shirt red, then size, and then M. To read this red as a parameter, again we need to go to the t-shirt component. Over here we are reading query parameters, copy this, paste it over here. Instead of query param map, let's use params or the params map, and over here let's use the color as a key. Let's save this, refresh. If I visit the console now, you can see red value is getting printed over here. Okay, so this is basically strictly depends on us only how we are actually defining the routes. Okay, if we have child routes also has the parameters attached to it, right? Then again, like sequentially we need to pass or we need to construct that URL using the navigate method in the square brackets array. The first one is the products, the base or the parent component's path. Then we have the parameters followed by that path. We have a parameters for that parent component. Then we'll have child components path, and then followed by the parameters of that particular child component. So this is how you need to construct the URL. Now let's understand the same thing by the navigate by URL. So let's copy this navigate by URL over here, comment this out, the navigate function. Let's use the navigate by URL function now. Again, after a test, we need to give the t-shirt, and to t-shirt again slash the value of color is nothing but red. Let's give red over here, right? And to pass a query parameters, again we need to give the question mark over here. Query parameter name is nothing but size, question mark. The value for size is nothing but M, right? So this is how. Let's save this everything. Go to the chapters component. Let's hard refresh once. Now I'll click this navigate by URL, but now we are making use of a navigate by URL method. T-shirt component works, and it has, why it is not having size is equals to M. Let's understand that. Okay, so we are not giving the equals to sign over here, and we have used this question mark. We don't need that question mark over here. So we want only one question mark. And if you have multiple query strings, let's add ampersand. Let's make size is equals to m and price is equals to um, let's say dollar 100. $100 like this. And let's read this price as well. This is actually this example I have given for the multiple query parameters. Okay, let's read this price as well from query parameters section. Let me copy this, paste it over here. Instead of size, we are now reading the price. Save everything. Let's go back to the chapter component now. Click on this button, navigate with the query. As you can see, price is now $100, size is M, and you can see the price is getting printed over here and size is also getting printed over here. And for the color, red is also getting printed from the t-shirt component, because t-shirt component has the parameter red as well. Okay, so this parameter is nothing but the name of this parameter is color and the value is red, right? And these two parameters are getting printed from the products component. So this is how you can construct the URLs, the complex URLs as well, but the reading part will remain the same. Okay, so now let's see how we can show these routes to the user. Showing routes to the user, so for that we do have a navigation component created for us. So in the navigation component, as you can see, this is the simple bootstrap navigation bar we have, and we'll just need to put the menus over here. Like as you can see, the chapter is there. So similarly, we need to put the other menus also over here in the anchor tag, and then just import this navigation component in the app.ts file now. In the imports array, navigation component. What is the name of that navigation component? Not navigation, actually navbar, right? So it is navbar component. So we have imported this navbar component. Let's add the selector of that navbar component in the app.html file. On top of this header, let's say app navbar component like this. Let's save this now. Remove the app.ts, app.html. Now you will able to see the navbar available over here on top, right? But now the menus are not visible, so let's add menus as well. The first one is chapter, the second one is home. Let's add home over here. The third one is products. Let's remove this two. Here we need to add products because it has a child root. The child root is nothing but a t-shirt, right? In the anchor tag over here, we need to add the t-shirt. Let's head over to the browser now. Okay, what it is saying. Let's rerun the or rebuild the application now. Let's see what are the issues. Okay, it seems there are no issues. Let's refresh the browser. Okay, inspect this. Why it is not visible? Okay, yeah. So the menus are visible now. Let's remove this class active. Now, while clicking on these menus, right? So they're not actually clickable right now because even if I click on chapter, home, products, or t-shirt, nothing is happening, right? So those components are not getting loaded. So let's understand how we can, make these links uh, to use our routes, right? So first route is nothing but a chapter. So let's add or the copy this chapter key from here and use the router link. Okay. So router link, it is actually directive which actually allows us to add the routes which are available inside the routes array, right? So let's import this from the proper place, router link from the Angular router, save this, and now if I save this, click on the chapter, it is navigating me to this actually empty path, right? Because we do have redirect to method over here or the key used over here. Now let's use the home router link home, copy this. If I click on this home, now we are able to visit the home component. Similarly, let's use this products, copy the entire path over here. Let's use the router link, and to this let's pass the parameters, right? So now I'm saving it, clicking on products. As you can see, products component works, but now we do have a t-shirt. So let's add the router link for the t-shirt as well. I need to copy this entire path, paste it over here, and after that I need to give the t-shirt and then the color slash t-shirt. For color I am giving red. Let's copy this, click on the t-shirt. You can see t-shirt component is also getting work. So this is how you can uh, show the routes to the user. T-shirt, products, t-shirt, home, chapter, right? So this is how you can navigate using the navbar as well. But now there is actually a catch that by looking at the UI, we are not aware that which menu is getting clicked over here because we are not adding any kind of active class to the routes, right? So how we can do that? To add active class to the routes or the router link, we need to make use of a router link active directive. So here just add a active class, copy this directive and add it everywhere. Save everything now. So whatever menu is there right now, the t-shirt is there, home, chapter. Let's see the active is getting added or not. Okay, so do we have a active class over here available? I think there is some issue for importing the router link actually. So let's remove this issue or the wrong link and update the router link. So this is router link active coming from the Angular router itself. So now save everything. So now you can see the home component has the active class, products component has the active class, t-shirt component. For chapter it is not getting active because we are redirecting it to the other path. So let's correct this now. Instead of adding chapter over here, let's use this empty, and in the routes as well let's use empty. Save everything. Now you can see the chapter is also getting selected and it is also getting the active class. In the real case scenario, we don't have any kind of, we actually normally have the non-empty path names, right? But to showcase this particular tutorial, I have added it. So if you don't wish to have this empty path, you can have the chapter over here like this, and pointing to the chapter component, you can get rid of this redirect to E, right? So this is how you can have the paths available. Let's copy this chapter and add it over here. Save everything. Now the chapter is also available. Home, products, t-shirts, right? Everything is getting work now. Let's visit the chapter, right? So we have learned showing routes to the users. Then we have learned making route active as well. With that, we have learned creating routes, redirecting routes, creating nested routes, routes with data and how to read data, routes with URL parameters and how to read the URL parameters, routes with query parameters and how to read the query parameters. Then we have learned programmatic navigations, and we have navigated to the components using params and using query params. Then we have the other variants. There are two variants of navigations. The first one is navigate method. Using navigate methods, we have learned how to navigate using parameters and query parameters. Then we have a navigate by URL method. Using the same navigate by URL method, we have learned how to pass parameters and how to pass query parameters, right? And after that, we have learned showing routes to the user, how we can show our routes to the user in the form of menus. After that, we have learned how to make a particular menu active using the router link active. So I think we have covered everything. So I hope you have liked this video. If you like it, so you can hit like on the video, share it with your friends. Do not forget to subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon. Thanks all guys. Let's meet in next video now.